today's Coaches Caravan, we are joined by Navy women's soccer head coach Karen Guevara, women's basketball head coach Tim Taylor, wrestling head coach Carrie Clack, and men's lacrosse head coach Joe Amplo. So now we're just going to go around to each one of the coaches and just get a brief little introduction and just tell us how everything's been going for them these last couple of crazy months. So Coach Karen, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to spend some time with you guys. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for taking part of Navy Athletic Excellence as donors. And I speak for all coaches when I say we cannot thank you enough for all of your unwavering support of Navy sports. It means a lot to us. Also want to thank Mr. Gladchuck and John O'Neill for supporting and backing our sport and giving us all the resources, and Brianna and Tatiana for setting us up tonight. This last fall was my 27th year at Navy and my 27th season. Interestingly enough, it wasn't our most talented class or talented team we've ever had, but we had 6 invested and really important seniors that led us. And each day, every training session, every weight training session, every meeting, these guys brought it. They had this grit and this passion and this drive, and they refused to lose. So they made it a really memorable season, and they went out on top. Ended up being a fabulous season for us. We've stayed pretty connected as a group, during this pandemic, and we've had to find new ways. So I've never really FaceTimed my players, and I've FaceTimed them consistently each week. And we've had Zoom meetings with Abby Wambach and Julie Foudy and Alyssa Nair, who are all U.S. Women's National Team players and wonderful leaders. We've had Zoom meetings with former players and alumni and military personnel and even authors. So we've done a lot of education and leadership work with the players as well. That's been really important. So, it's been different because not seeing your players face to face is hard, but at the same time, I feel like I connected more with them than I have any other summer. So it's been kind of unique in that regard. Our goals never waver. We always want to beat Army. I'm really thrilled with our success. No class after 2005 has a losing record against Army in N-Star matches. So it's pretty important to us, as is continually striving to win Patriot League and Patriot League Championship, as well as providing incredible opportunity for the mids, both on and off the field. I did have the opportunity this year to share practice field with Coach Amplo, and I can't wait to watch him get underway and what he does with our lacrosse team, because he's fantastic and they're going to be very successful. And I'm still haven't had chance to face meet Coach Taylor or Coach Colat, but I'm really looking forward to that because their resumes are so wonderful. And Navy coaches are a different breed, and we're all very competitive and we're super excited just to get back on the field. So again, thanks for letting me join. Thanks for all you do. It takes a village. Our success is definitely not just our coaching staff and players, but a really big extended staff of which every single person on this call is really a part of. So thank you so much for all you do for us.
Thank you, Coach Karen. And now, Coach Amplo, you want to go ahead and give your introduction?
Well, that's a tough follow-up, Karen. Thanks for the props there, and I will echo Karen's sentiment about the practice field we shared. It was a blessing for me to be able to enter the Naval Academy and be next to the most talented coach probably on the yard. And certainly someone who's been here and knows a lot. So I watched from a distance her success, enjoyed watching her train, and I will say one of the highlights of our year was being at that semifinal and final game, watching Coach and her mids compete for a championship, something we strive to do. This year for us, competitively got cut short. We were set to play Johns Hopkins on the 12th or 13th of March, and that's when the plug got pulled for everyone. We were 5 games in. But through the year, really, it was a learning process for myself and my staff, and I think for our mids as well. One of the first things we recognized that there was this divide between the midshipmen who were lacrosse players and the lacrosse staff, and we needed to mend that pretty quickly. So we did a lot of work on relationship development and making that a strength for our program. And the way we did it was we tried to be the most ignorant people on the yard, myself and my staff. And we forced ourselves to ask a lot of questions of our mids and go to classes with them and try and dive into what they do on a daily basis, because myself and my staff had no history of being at a service academy. So that allowed us to learn a lot and ask good questions and really get to know our young men. And looking towards the future has helped us, we think, set a sail for a pretty good player development model. Certainly, we would have liked to have the season continue and have those opportunities to play Army and some of the other teams in our schedule, but we didn't. So we made the most out of the time we've had and looked at what we can do virtually. The two main things we've worked on here the past 3 or 4 months, we went into a pretty intensive mental training program, because it's my philosophy that, we may not be the most talented team out there, but the talent difference between the absolute best and our program should not be the difference. We have to bridge that gap between our ability to be fully present in the moment and perform when the lights go on. And to me, that's mental training. So we took the time over a 30-day period to make that our focus and really worked on that on a daily basis with some outside help. And then the second thing is, we've said this, and I've said this since I was a head coach 8 years ago at my previous stop, and I'll say this here: our greatest strategy is always going to be our culture. That's always going to be the thing that we go back to. Our Alamo and the things that drive and lift up our program will always be our greatest strategy. And this time away from the X's and O's of lacrosse has really given us a great opportunity to rediscover that, to not reinvent, but reaffirm what's important to us, and force our players and ourselves, like Karen said, to look for those unique ways to build relationships and not use the distance as an excuse, but really use it as an asset to force some peer accountability and some different leadership models that we normally don't get a chance to have. So it's been fun. I'm pretty much over it. I'd like to get back in front of people and be able to grab them and hug them and slap them 5. But I realize that this is the best we can do right now. So in closing, again, thanks to Karen for all of the thank yous that she mentioned. I echo that to the village that we have here. And I'm happy to be on. So I look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
Thanks, Coach Amplo. And now our new wrestling head coach, Carrie Clack.
Thank you. Hey, I appreciate everybody taking the time to jump on the call. I'm brand new, as Brianna said, and so I'm still learning and following Coach Amplo's footsteps. My staff and I have been doing the same thing. We've had a few meetings with head coaches who have been here at the academy, who know what it's about, understand the daily life of a mid. Recruiting here, and I myself have never worked at an academy. Almost worked here a few times. I always say that the former head coach, Bruce Burnett, was my Olympic team coach, and I almost followed him in 2000, and so eventually found my way back to the Naval Academy here in 2020. Our season, I was at Campbell University, and the wrestling season got cut right before the NCAA championships, and then I took the job here April 1st, and I have yet to meet my team besides FaceTime chats and video calls, and so it's been a learning curve. But like I told them, leadership is about tackling the hurdles as they come. And I mean, that's what makes it worthwhile. So right now, that's all it is. It's a hurdle, and we get stronger coming through this distance that we have. So it's been a lot of time through the video. We've actually split our team up currently as a staff as we try to get to know them. We've split them into smaller groups as we meet with them and talk with them, and kind of broke them into these little groups that kind of feed off each other and make sure they're communicating with each other. As for that, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm still in North Carolina. I go back and forth between Annapolis and the Yard, and as I sell a house down here and get ready to find a house up there, and I know Coach Taylor's in the same position. Everybody's running right now and scrambling a little bit, but I'm excited to be at the Naval Academy and get going, and hopefully we have a season and we can get going in August.
First question, which will be for Coach Karen, which is someone asked, being a fall coach, when do you expect to reform the class? Will you get extra time to reform and train the upperclassmen before the plebes join in?
And the medical personnel at Navy have given us a protocol with what they call a ROM, which is restriction of movement, which is essentially quarantine, and then different phases with different percentages of our team. So that gives us a chance to physically and mentally get our players prepared again after this long time away, make sure they're all healthy and ready to play. We're not going to see our plebes as we have in other years. But with the protocol and the physical education piece of plebe summer, we're not worried about them being physically ready as well. So we're not positive on our start date as of yet. Patriot League does not want us to start games before September 4. So we're looking to that as our start date. But, I think we do a pretty good job of both the institution and as coaches teaching our kids what to do when we're not with them and how to train and how to stay active and get ready. So the reality for me is normally these kids are out on ships or doing internships or something where they're not really training and getting ready for our season. So usually we have 2.5 weeks to prepare. So I think we will be more prepared than any other year, and I'm excited to hit the ground running.
Next question is for Coach Collette. What brought you to the Naval Academy, and what are you most excited about being for this institution?
Yeah, that's a question I've gotten quite a few times, and my very simple response has always been it's the U.S. Naval Academy. It's one of our most prestigious institutions that we have in the United States. It carries a lot of weight. You talk about the U.S. Naval Academy, everybody knows about it. The academics of what it has to offer, and then the other thing for us specifically in our sport is our conference. And the conference that we belong to in the sport of wrestling is, we're obviously in the Patriot League, but our wrestling conference is the EIWA. So it makes up the Ivy Leagues and some Patriot League schools. So in being able to walk into a recruit's house and offer them, the #1 public education in the United States, to be able to offer them one of the toughest conferences to compete in terms of qualifying for the NCAA tournament and being prepped to be a national champion. Those carry a lot of merit and a lot of strength when you're able to say that to a recruit. So for me, that was a very big draw to the Naval Academy, and literally just keeping it simple. That's what it is. It's the Naval Academy. And I'm excited. I'm excited to work there. I'm excited to be around the type of individuals that the Academy recruits. They've got high character, high ethics, and you're sending off, individuals to do some big things in the world someday. And like I always said, somebody's going to be an admiral, somebody's going to be a general, somebody's going to be an astronaut. So you're around some unique kids. And so the relationships and building and getting to know them and coach them and be there with them, I'm very excited for.
Well, we're excited to have you here as well. Next question is for Coach Amplo. Despite having your season cut abruptly short, you and the men's lacrosse team were off to a great start during your first season. How are you enjoying your time at Navy, and how have you seen the team grow already during your time here?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm enjoying this more than I thought I would. This was a dream job for me, much like Coach Collette. The intangibles of this job in the lacrosse world are second to none. Everything that Coach said about the academic institution and the opportunity to provide something for midshipmen and them going out into the world, and you couple that with the fact that we have a chance to compete at the top of our sport in the center of the lacrosse universe, there's not a better place for me. So I'm enjoying it. My family loves Annapolis, and I'm having fun with most of the people on this call. And the other folks in the department. Scott Strassmeyer, he's tough to deal with sometimes, but we handle him. It's interesting. The thing that I've looked at is the relationship part of our job. To me, that's always been the strength and the thing that I look forward to every day. And I'm disappointed that we didn't get a chance to go through some tough moments with our team this year, those highs and lows that a season brings, because I think that's when you really, really, truly find out the depth of relationship that's necessary. And I think you truly find out the competitiveness that's necessary to compete at an elite level. And I feel like we were just on the cusp of having those moments. So while we started out fairly well, we always want to win every single game, and there was some positive momentum. I think the disappointment for all of us was we didn't get through those moments that all of us as coaches and competitors crave. Those tough losses or those really challenging wins that catapult you to breakthroughs. And I'm curious to see when those will happen again.
Thanks, Coach Amplo. And do we have Coach Taylor back?
Let's try this again. We switched over internet. Does that help?
Perfect. So far, so good. All right.
All right. Thank you.
For you. How has the transition been going for you? And can you speak to where you are in regards to building your staff and introducing yourself to your players and team?
Well, I think the transition's been great. I told people that everybody I've spoken to, I keep telling them how everybody at the Naval Academy is so willing to help, and everyone is so generous with their time, generous with their information, and reaching out. So it's the transition is as good as it can be in a COVID-19 world as far as that. But I think it's been really good with our players as far as being able to meet with them. And I've been able to spend a lot of time, like Karen said, with FaceTime, Zoom, being able to meet them, talk to them. I think it's actually allowed me to build some really deep connections with them by having some conversations. I gave them the opportunity to interview me. So they got to ask any question they wanted. And it absolutely opened up some doors. And through their questions, I found out a lot about them. So that was able to allow me to be able to ask more pointed questions for them. And then all of a sudden the relationship has come, and now several of them are calling, and they're sharing things. So it's actually been pretty positive as far as, not having face-to-face physical space, connections, but I think we've been able to connect there. So the transition there has been, I think, is going as well as it can be. And, Scott helped us a little bit with our staff. We kind of rolled them out one day at a time, tried to do that. I thought that I'm really excited about this staff. And I think I think what they're going to bring to the Naval Academy with their energy, their talents, I'm just excited for them to be able to meet everyone else. And they're different. It was a puzzle. I told them I wanted something different out of each one of them. And so I'm ecstatic, as you can probably hear in my voice, with what I think they're going to be able to bring. And boy, have they hit the ground recruiting hard. So it's been really good. A lot of positivity there. So I think I'm kind of like Carrie. If I can get a house in Annapolis and kind of get a little settled, it would be a little nicer. So we can get up there on a daily basis. But overall, I'm really excited about where we're going, especially the recruiting. The recruiting's been really, kids are really responsive. And so I think with what we have to offer here at the Naval Academy, not just on the basketball court, but, an opportunity for a career and something that's bigger than the basketball, has been really transformational in some of the conversations that we've been able to have.
And since we got cut a little short on our introduction, tell us a little what brought you to the Naval Academy in the first place.
Well, I tell people I'm a man of faith, and I think in this COVID world that when Scott called me that morning, Scott, I'm throwing you out there, he kind of caught me off guard. I didn't really know what was going on. And I see this call from Annapolis, and, because it had been a little while since the job had opened. So I feel like God opened the door there, and then the conversations they were great. I mean, the conversation I had with Scott, with Loretta, with Chet, and just everyone that I've spoken to about the Naval Academy, it's just such a prestigious institution. And everyone that I've ever spoken to that has worked there, so I have a lot of friends that work there, I have never heard anyone say a bad word about the Naval Academy. And then you start looking at the coaches that have been there, and that was one of the things when I started looking at it. People don't leave. You don't see this influx of people coming in, going out, coming in, going out. And just it came to the same values that I have. I have to be at an institution that I believe in, that's going to help kids for 40 years. I think Joe really hit it on nail on the head. It's about relationships. One of the kids asked me, what's the most important thing that you've accomplished as a basketball coach? And this came from one of the kids from the Naval Academy. And I told her, and I know they wanted wins or whatever, actually, that my kids still call me 25 years later. Now I'm dating myself when I say that, but but they do. They're calling and picking up the phone. It's more transformational than it is just the basketball piece to it. And I think when you focus on that, I learned a lot from Tony Bennett in that when you focus on that, you win a lot of games, and you don't get caught up in the wins and losses. Yeah, as Joe mentioned, and I think Karen did, the culture. The culture is going to help you win. So a lot of that brought me here, and plus I love this area. I love Annapolis. I've been around there. I spent a few years in DC. This is home. So I was excited to actually come. My wife was pretty pumped about it too. So we're good.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Taylor, and welcome. And next question is for Coach Karen. You're coming off an incredibly successful season and won the ANSP Trustee Coach of the Year award. How has the program grown during your tenure, and what are you most excited about for the future of the team?
Right now, I'm excited just to get back on the field and to be able to see the players again. It feels like forever. But it's just such an exciting place to work. And the neat thing about college coaching, and especially at the Naval Academy, is every season is uniquely different. Your leadership group is basically your first class, your seniors, and they choose to do things a little differently, have different cultures, different strengths and weaknesses. So every season's different. We will always aspire to beat Army. We'll always aspire to win conference and go to the NCAAs. But really what I've come to love and respect so much is what Coach Taylor just mentions, the culture. You know, these kids, you tell them this team's better than you, they come to play. You tell this team, your team, this other team has been ranked top 5 this many years, they'll come to play. So these midshipmen, they're driven, and they're not there for any other reason other than they want to do the work. They want to hold themselves accountable. They want to get better. They want to become leaders. They want to, you know, become better leaders and better in character and all the intangibles. So every year I expect to win. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's what we expect. And, you know, we did have a fantastic year, and it was a good tribute to our seniors. So now our incoming leadership, our senior class next year really needs to step up and try to forge their own path to success.
Awesome. Thank you. And now this is a question for all of the coaches. And just a reminder, if anybody wants to also chip in and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself. But one question is, what has been the most challenging part of managing a program and coaching remotely? So we can go ahead and start. Let's go with Coach Amplo. Most challenging part.
I think the lack of connectivity. You know, when it first started, the Zoom or Google Meet function was new and exciting, like a new car. But once that new car smell wore off, I'm a big body language guy. I like to be in front of people and connect that way. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, especially for us. We have such a large roster of over 50 players. So when we're on a call like this, you can't see everyone, you know. So in some ways it's helped because we're forced, just because of the nature of it, to go into smaller groups for a better functionality. But when you want to get the entire group together and have a group discussion, it is a little challenging. So, but you make the most of it.
Definitely. All right, Coach Taylor, what do you think has been your most challenging parts? Not only, you know, coming to the Naval Academy during this crazy time, you know, as a brand new coach.
Well, I just think I think we've had to learn a different way to communicate. You know, I think Joe makes a good point. I'm a big body language person. I'm someone that likes to, you know, I like to look in somebody's eyes, you know, and see what's going on in there. You know, my grandmother always told me the eyes are the windows to the soul. So I think that's one of the things that just learning to be more communicative and learning to be concise in what and how you explain. Like even when we send out workouts, you know, our kids are all freshmen. I don't care if they've been here 4 years, because they've got a new coach with different terminology. I think Joe probably ran into that last year, and Carrie's going to run into it this year. And I think that's been trying to get them on the same page and understand different terminology and being very concise and really thinking about how to be efficient with your communication has been probably the biggest challenge. But I think in the end, we're going to be a lot better for it. So. Definitely.
And Coach Collette, biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, I mean, everything that those two said, I'm probably sitting in the same thing. For us, the goal right now with these video chats and all these meetings we're having individually just through FaceTime is trying to get our athletes to understand who we are before they get here, to kind of shorten that learning curve, because we're still being new. Tim and I, there's going to be a large learning curve. So if we can shorten that window and hit the ground running, you know, that'll be the biggest impact that we can make. And so it's just not the same. And obviously it's wrestling. And so in our sport, we physically do put our hands on people. So it's like, and our guys, that's what they're craving and looking forward to. And so my staff, you know, one of the questions I had was, had I finished picking a staff? Well, I pretty much brought everybody I had at my former university with me. So that's good. We gel on that aspect. So we're not the staff isn't trying to figure out new things, and we kept 2 people that were currently at Navy when I got here, and so that's going to help, you know, kind of be that glue that binds us all together, with having some people that were here, bringing in some new guys on the staff, and then all of us just fitting and them understanding our character and what we expect. And I think they're getting it, but like we all said, it'll never be the same until you're sweating with a person and standing in front of a person and doing all those things.
Coach Karen?
I concur with all that. You know, I'm not too different in that it's the face-to-face time you spend with your players. You know, we've heard a lot that it's hard for these college kids to be home and to change to virtual online classes and everything else. And, you know, you learn to get to know your players, and you can tell by their body language or what the look in their eyes or what their attitude is if something really is truly bothering them. And it's different trying to get them to open up when you're not seeing them face to face. I have a son and a daughter that both play Division I sports, and I'll never underestimate the value college coaches have in these athletes' lives. And, you know, it's a pretty important role that we all take very seriously. And you can hear from all of us, and we're all in the same frame of mind that we just want to get back with the players. And it is the relationship piece and the face-to-face time that we miss the most.
Now, next question is, how has recruiting been affected by the pandemic? And can you speak about your incoming recruits and plebe class? So let's hear a little bit about the talent you have coming in as well, Coach Amplo. Oh, you're muted, Coach Amplo. Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks. Oh, good.
Recruiting evaluations are pretty much on pause for us. The contact evaluation period, we should be in the midst of it right now, but we're not. June and July are usually the most intense months for us. I personally think it's going to be a good thing because it's going to allow us to really evaluate this rising junior class and make some really well thought out, deliberate decisions as opposed to trying to rush to make decisions. So the frustration we're trying to turn into a positive. I think everyone's going to be pleased with the incoming freshman class. While I can't speak specifically about it, I can tell you that it is certainly one of the best classes, if not in the country, but definitely one that people are going to be excited about. But I will tell you, I'll answer that question better in 4 years when we see how these young men respond on the yard. And, you know, if you get to know me a little bit, you'll realize that we're going to recruit like crazy and always try and get the best players and people to our program. But we are in the business of player development, always first and foremost. So regardless of the talent we're bringing in, we're always going to look to develop our players better than our peers.
Thanks, Coach. And Coach Taylor, I know you haven't been here too long, but have you been able to get much recruiting in since you've been here?
Actually, believe it or not, we have. We've been on the phone quite a bit with the parents, and you know, we've really been trying to build a relationship, and you have to do it over the phone, FaceTime, whether Zoom meetings, things like that. I think you know, one of the things that's been, I think Coach Collinton and even Stephanie, they did a good job with the three that are coming in. I actually have watched a lot of film, and I think the three players will be able to make an impact and have an opportunity to make an impact within the program. So I'm excited about what I've seen on film. Now, I haven't seen them in person, so I can't really, you know, a lot of people, I even tweeted this out, film study becomes important right now. So we are spending a lot of time watching films. Of course, people send great highlights. We get everybody's highlights, you know, so they look great. Everybody looks great on the highlight. They never miss a shot, I tell you. So it's great. But then we're able to spend a lot of time with film. So I think that's where, if you don't break it down, if you don't like watching film, recruiting, the evaluation prospects are going to be really tough to do. But I will say that I am really pleased with where the recruiting, and pleased with the assistant coaches have done a great job. You know, Jimmy has been a wealth of knowledge and being able to help in that process. So that's been great as well. So actually, I'm excited. Like Joe said, we're going to recruit the best of the best. And one of the things that we talk about is individual development, player development. We're not going to have kids transferring in. We're not going to have kids transferring out, hopefully. And, you know, within those 2 years. So over that 4-year period, we've got to develop them, and we've got to do a lot of skill development. So that's going to be one of the things that's going to be paramount. And that was part of the staff that I hired to be able to do that. So kids get excited about that. And so right now, you know, we're even with 22s and 23s, I think we're way ahead of where they have been in the past. So we're pretty excited about it.
Awesome. And Coach Collette, what has recruiting been looking like for you?
Yeah, it's been different for the format, learning through you know, Zoom and not understanding the Naval Academy. When I first got here, like I said, I had a lot of conversations with head coaches who are already here, and that was the biggest part. I can tell you, I literally took my own camera, walked around campus, and made my own virtual tour in the first 2 weeks here because I had nothing else to show. And so we got out there and got the work, and I know we have another one in the works now. We've got 12 coming in from the previous staff. One of those kids, is definitely like a top 5 recruit. And I think every coach on here will tell you, we all believe in ourselves, but it's easier to believe in yourself when you have a large, prestigious institution behind you. So we're able to talk to the number 1s, the number 2s in the country now in terms of recruiting through video chats. We have the ability to reach out to every kid. And so right now our list is deep. Taking over when we did, we feel a little bit behind for this recruiting class, but in terms of the 2022s, I feel good about the conversations that we were able to start having with them last week and having those conversations and talking to the parents. I will say that the one thing I do like about the recruiting this year is using the video and having mom and dad sit down and see face to face. That was something, I don't know if many of us did. We're all different generation. And now, moving forward, I think every call I ever make will be a video and get mom and dad and the kid in front of it so they can see us and see body language. And I think that helps. I think the Naval Academy and coaches, they can tell me if I'm wrong or right, but is this place you really talk to mom and dad as much as you talk to the recruit. It's not always just a recruit, because they're definitely going to guide the kid. They're going to push the kid. They're going to let the athlete make the decision in the end. But mom and dad will always going to try to guide you in the right direction. And with the Naval Academy, I think they're a big part of the equation when you're recruiting now. But so it's going as it's going. There's no complaints. It is what it is for everybody. And I think we're doing well with 2022 right now.
Awesome. And as Scott said, we may have a new recruiting video coming out soon for you coaches. So be ready for that. Thanks for the shout out, Scott. Now, Coach Karen, what is recruiting? What has it been looking like for you?
We're super excited for this 20 class to come in and start plebe summer July 2nd. So we have 9 very talented players, a lot of local kids, Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland area kids, but really good class. And they all committed very early, so it's been an easy ride for them. Our 2021 class, so that's our rising high school senior class, we're virtually done. We're kind of looking for a goalkeeper, but the rest of them are also very talented. We have a forward coming in from Texas who was recruited by some really big top 10 schools. And then our 22s, we're just able to start to contact them, of course, and we're reaching high. We have a local player whose dad played football at Navy, so that will be excellent to get her if that works out. We also have a player from the West Coast who plays for the youth national team, and it's between us, Stanford, UNC, and UCLA. So some tough competition athletically, but we know we're the best academic and athletic school for this kid. So we're pushing hard for all these guys. It did slow down a little bit because in our sport, kids do commit early. So normally we would have these 2022s on campus very soon, but with COVID, I'm not sure how the campus is going to be and when we're going to be able to get them in, but it's not going to be too different with any other schools. So we're just going to be patient and get to know them and do our work and get them, the information they need. And we don't ever feel like we have to sell ourselves, our program. The Naval Academy sells itself. I think the players and the team sells itself. So we just feel like we need to get them the information they want. So that's what we're in the process of doing. And fingers crossed we get a couple of these 22s to really help us.
Thanks, Coach. And our next question is for Coach Amplo and Coach Karen, again, our returning coaches. So what are your plans as of now for return to play? Training table, testing, is there any specifics that you've had to change to return to play? Coach Amplo, we'll start with you.
I guess I'm following Karen's coattails here because we're a spring sport, and they'll be the first. The fall sports will be the first to activate. I haven't been told anything, and we'll follow whatever guidelines there are. We can practice with one player at a time. We'll do that 53 different times. So, Coach Karen probably has a little bit more information on that.
We do have a return to play protocol, and our medical personnel are wonderful and have an extremely detail-oriented timeline. Every detail has been taken care of. And the interesting piece is, you go to these other big schools and they have their football players back, but kids are going home to houses and apartments and eating in restaurants all over town, and they have a much different perspective than us, where we have a controlled environment where all of our players are coming in and we can keep them quarantined and in a little bit of a cocoon and keep everyone healthy and safe. So our medical people and our athletic staff have given us a wonderful return to play. It's extremely detailed. Every little detail from training room to when and how we're getting food, to locker room use, to trainers, and to how our players get on the field, specific numbers, specific protocols. So it's still a work in progress because, as we all know, every day this pandemic changes. The good news is everything seems to get a little better as we move forward. So we're hoping some of the restrictions are a little lighter in the coming weeks, but everything's been taken care of, and it's great to have the right personnel to be able to do all this for us.
Awesome. And Coach Amplo, how does last year's abrupt ending to the season affect your program moving forward?
Well, to us, the benefit is it's given my staff enough of a sample size that we feel like we understand this institution much better than we did, say, in the fall or earlier in the season. And it's given us an opportunity to really evaluate what we need to do to take this program back to the top of the sport. So like I mentioned before, the player development aspect, we've come up with a model that we think really will work for us when we do get back, and driving that home. I think our off-season training in the fall will look a lot different than it did last fall, where last year we focused on more team aspects. We're really going to drive home that individual player development model, because what we have in toughness and athleticism, we lack in skill against the best teams out there. So we've got to make our players better lacrosse players. And that's something that we realized in the 5 games we did play. And it's allowed us to do some research and learn new things and kind of reinvent our craft to fit this place so that we can best serve our student athletes.
All right. And also we are going to do another call for any questions. Anybody like to ask any questions or submit them through the chat, or right now you can just unmute yourself? If not, I have a few more. So if we're good, we'll just give you a few more seconds if anybody wants to chime in. Nope. Okay. All right. So next question, I have to know, have you had, since being in quarantine, being back home, any new hobbies any of the coaches have picked up? Let's go ahead, Coach Colette. Let's hear from you. Have you had any new hobbies since you've been home?
Recruiting. That's been my hobby. So I've had, honestly, taking over at the time I did, I haven't made so many phone calls or video calls in my life. And it's and with the video calls, recruiting a West Coast kid right now is you're staying up till midnight until you get mom and dad on the phone in front of the video. So no, honestly, that has been it. That's all we, as a staff, recruiting is your bloodline and your lifeline. And like we always said, you got to have the right horses in the stables. And so that's what we've been doing since we got here. So my hobby is recruiting right now.
How about you, Coach Taylor? I know you're house hunting, but any new hobbies besides trying to, I'm sure it's been a busy time for you.
No, I have to go with Carrie on that. I think recruiting, not only recruiting players, but recruiting a staff, so I had to put one together. So that actually took a lot of time. And, when these positions come open, a lot of people are after them. So it was a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, things like that. I will say I've been able to get out on the golf course, which I haven't been able to do because there's really nothing else to do. And I have a son that's a pretty good golfer. So I'll sneak out and try to play a couple non-holes with him here and there. So I would say I picked that back up a little bit. But I have to agree with Carrie. It's recruiting nonstop. We'll get off the phone tonight and we'll be going till about 11 or 12. So.
Coach Amplo, anything new with you?
I can tell you what I'm not good at. I fired my lawn guy and I fired the pool boy. And I can't see the bottom of my pool and my lawn is long. So that's what I'm not good at right now.
Great. Coach Karen, any new hobbies?
I feel like we haven't been in the office much and we haven't been able to connect with our players, but I still feel extremely busy, just like everybody else. So a lot of us doing podcasts to try to get better at our jobs and learn on top of all the recruiting and everything else. But I can say that I have 3, my son just graduated from college and then my other 2 are in college. So I actually spent a lot of time with my 2 kids and having them grow up playing 3 sports each. We hadn't had family dinners for probably 10 years. So it was really nice to spend some time with them and hang out. And now that they're adults, they're actually kind of pleasant.
Great. That's awesome to hear. And for people who don't know, where did they all go to college at?
My son graduated from NC State, so we played in the ACC. My middle daughter didn't play soccer, so she works and goes to school locally. My youngest will be a sophomore at UCF.
Awesome. Awesome. And also another question for you. What advice would you give to the new coaches since you've had a lot of experience at the Naval Academy?
Listening to them, I can't tell you that I need to give them advice. I'm taking advice. I mean, did you see? I think Coach Taylor talked about how he interviewed his kids. All of us were nodding. We're like, "Ooh, good one. I'm going to go do that next week." It's a never-ending learning experience for all of us. We all learn. That's what we do. That's what coaching is. And I love to spend time and watch other coaches. I'm looking forward to getting to know the two new coaches on this call and just get to see our teams perform. So. I don't have any real advice other than I can tell they have energy, and I think and I believe in extreme energy. You bring the energy, the mids will respond. Coach Amplo has that energy plus. We're not even going to go there because
you can't go there, Karen. Don't say it. I know what you're going to say.
He's in a different category, but I can see the passion here. And if you care about the mids and you put the time in, they respond.
Coach Amplo, do you have any advice as well, since you aren't brand new by any means, but since you just came to the academy, I'm sure you've had to learn a lot over the last season. So do you have any advice as well?
Honestly, I think not advice, just the suggestion is just enjoy it. I think what I realize is all the pressure we put on ourselves and how busy I know Tim and Carrie are with the move and all that is the COVID time has allowed me to look back and reflect and realize how much fun I've had. How much fun I've had getting through the nervousness and the not knowing. And, I'll tell a funny story. I think it's funny. The administrators on this call may not think it's funny, but we didn't know anything. I was hired last June, and recruiting July 1st was a big day for us because that's the first day we can contact individuals and have them visit campus. And, heck, we had maybe 200 kids on our list. And one of the biggest lacrosse events in the country was in Annapolis the first week of July. So we had every top kid who wanted to visit, so we couldn't say no. And because we didn't know how to get the young men on the yard, we told them to meet us at the goat statue, right? And one of my staff members we would always be staged at the goat statue. So there was 3 kids from the same club team that were going to meet us at the goat statue at, say, 2:00 in the afternoon. Right? Or 1400. So myself and my 2 new assistants, we go to the goat statue and we're there prompt. No one's there. And 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes go by. I finally get a phone call from the club coach, and he's yelling at me. He's, "Amplo, where the heck are you?" I'm like, "I'm at the goat statue. Where are your guys?" They're like, "They're at the goat statue." Well, lo and behold, there's also a goat statue in the end zone of Navy Marine Corps Stadium. So we were at a goat statue, but we weren't at the goat statue that the 3 top recruits were at. So I told my assistants, I said, "Write a journal. We've got to just write everything down because there'll be a time when we'll look back and we'll laugh at all this stuff." So it's moments like that I think make everything worth it. And so that's my story.
Mini goat statue.
So Joe, how many of them did you get?
We got 1 out of the 3, but I don't think
there you go.
You weren't coming either way.
Speaking of learning new things, this question's for Coach Taylor and Coach Kolat. Is there anything in specific, like a big surprise you've had or something unique for specifically athletics at the academy that you wouldn't have known other places? And I know it might give you a little bit of time to think about that. Oh, Coach Taylor? Oh, there we go again.
To be honest with you, I've only been there like 2 days, so it's hard to find anything that I've really been able to. The one thing I guess I thought I knew, but a lot of times when you assume, you kind of make a problem with that when you start assuming. It's just I guess the word is how people look at the academy outside of the academy, how much respect it has across the entire country. And it's a level that I thought was really high, but I think it's even higher. And the product that we have an opportunity to, I don't even want to say sell, because I look at it as we're providing an opportunity for a lifetime transformational experience here. And I think that has been the thing that has jumped out to me more so than anything. And so many top recruits are looking for that, so it's been quite interesting. I think this place is different. It's different than anywhere else. And so I think that's where I'm excited about it, the energy and just the fact that everybody is so helpful. So that's kind of what would be mine. Carrie, hopefully you got something better than that.
Well, I don't want to copy your answer, but I'm going to copy your answer because I can't really expand on it. Well, everything that Tim said, my wife is originally from Baltimore. So I lived there for a time, and I was around the academy, and I experienced a little bit outside of the yard. But once you're there and you're around some of these kids and you realize how driven they are and how intelligent they are and the things that they're going to go off and do. And it was everything that I thought, but it's now to be inside of it and experience it. It's amazing. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story that I got inducted into the Hall of Fame about 4 or 5 years ago, and I got inducted into the Hall of Fame with an astronaut. And the guy flew on the space shuttle 4 times, and I think he has the most flights on the space shuttle. And then I took the naval job, and I've been telling, when I've been recruiting and all these video chats, I tell them, hey, you might have a guy on your team someday that's, like I said, an admiral, general, or even an astronaut. And come to find out, it was the guy I got inducted with, and I didn't know it for the last couple months I've been here. And he called me on the phone, and so we had a good laugh because I had met him years ago. But so yeah, the type of kids that are drawn to the Naval Academy and what it represents around the country to everybody when you say the Naval Academy and a Naval grad is just amazing. And it's going to transform their life. And they'll be different. You can't explain what it's going to do for them after, unless you go through it, unless you have the opportunity to go through it. And honestly, I get jealous. If I could go back in time, I tell people, if I could go back in time, I would have loved to have done it. I wouldn't have had the SAT scores to get into the Naval Academy, I'll be honest. But looking back, I've got a couple kids here, and I'm like, if they could have that opportunity, it would be awesome, because it's a transformation.
Awesome. Well, that is all of the questions I have and on my list. So I'm just going to have one last call for anybody else that may have a question. Just give a few seconds to make sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, I'm still brand new and I'm still learning. So I know a lot of people on this call have been here. So I'm just picking sporadically, but Howard Winfrey, I mean, you're a graduate of the Naval Academy. I would love to know your experience from when you went there and what you've seen change.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Yeah, well, it was a great experience. It set you up. I appreciate it, of course, more now than I did then. Back when you're going through the academy, you're just trying to make it. You're trying to do everything you can to graduate. And what we tell the kids is that I talk to is it's an adventure. You're going to one is it's a tremendous school to go to for all the reasons you guys talked about. But when you finish, most college graduates go out to try to find a job somewhere, and when you graduate, you're going to start an adventure in your life, and it's so exciting to me for them to have this kind of a start in life, and not only are they going to start their postgraduate years with this adventure, but then the world is wide open to them after that. They can do anything that they think they might want to do after having graduated from the Naval Academy as an undergraduate. I don't know what else I could say, except that I appreciate it a lot more now. I'm 81 years old. So
I want to use him to recruit my kids.
How are you doing for height?
Me or my players? Me is not good. I need everybody taller than me. We'll be good. So,
okay.
Actually, we're working on that. We're going to try to be a lot longer. I can promise you that.
Thanks, Carrie, for the question.
Thank you.
I'll sign
Thank you. So any more questions? Is that it? All right. I think that might be it. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you for all the coaches also for taking your time out of your day to answer our questions. And also thank you for First Command Financial Services for helping support Navy athletics. So thank you all so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bree.